Let's start. Okay. In the last topic, we saw how in the statue of Daniel 2, which you see here, the iron of Rome reached up to the feet mixed with mud. Theoretically, now we would have to see more enlarged. You see, here it is, the symbol of, what was it? What was it? Do you remember? Of Europe. And that union lasted and lasted until the time of the second coming of Jesus. Not a false Messiah, but the real Jesus. Will this Roman iron of Daniel 2, which was that horrible beast with 10 horns of which we are showing pictures for you to remember, which has a little horn coming out of it that plucks out 3 and has eyes like a man and a mouth that speaks great things in Daniel 7, and which appears again in Daniel 8 attacking God and His truth, have anything to do with the beast that we will talk about today, and which is found in the other book called Revelation? We will be looking at this in detail. Now you will see how the connections between both books, the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, which, although written about 600 to 700 years apart, are extremely important. I will try to expose today's topic without hurting sensibilities. You are going to say, how can it be that sensitivities can be hurt by talking about these subjects? Yes, sensitivities can be hurt, but the content must be as clear as the prophecy demands. And I cannot deceive you. Therefore, perhaps some of you, what you are going to see from now on, who this prophecy is referring to, may affect you. I just want to ask you to be noble and sensitive enough to perceive for yourselves if this is so or not so. Because the world that is now going to open up to you may be a completely different concept than the one you all or some of you have had until now. Let us begin, then, by extracting the biblical text where this terrible beast and its number are mentioned. We will first read the whole text in general, and then we will break it down. The text in question is this: Revelation chapter 13, verses 1 to 10, and also verse 18. Here it speaks of the beast. Let's go into this. We start by reading the whole text. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. Imagine, the prophet is John. And saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads, as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, and tongues, and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Making a leap to verse 18, it tells us, Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. I suppose that when you read this, most of you have stayed the same. You will have seen some great symbolism, because it is evident that these are symbols. But what is the prophet referring to when he sees all this? Let's look at this symbolism that appears in these verses, and we will start with verse 1. We will see how, verse by verse, we will be demonstrating what these symbols mean, because they are extremely important to know what this prophecy is saying, which I tell you now, is perhaps one of the most important that we can get to deal with. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Let's see what all this means. Let's see what the sea means. And here it is. The sea, and now I say it this way, then we will demonstrate if this is so, is equivalent to many waters, which is equal to a place of many people. Perhaps you have all used the expression, a sea of people, haven't you? Notice, even this is taken from the internet. A sea, a real sea of people. It's in Portuguese, by the way, isn't it? It's an everyday expression, a sea of people. Let's check the symbol in Revelation 17:15. Let's see if this is so, or is it an invention of mine. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. Do you see? By comparing texts, we are seeing how the waters, the many waters, the seas, what are they going to be? Well, many peoples, many nations. Therefore, we are already placing the symbols a little bit. And what are the horns? Are the horns kingdoms? Here we see a little drawing with the beast. We are not going to see precisely the verification of the symbol, which we already saw in Daniel 7 and 8, where the succession of kingdoms and kings was described as horns. Those of you who have been to the other conferences remember this. But let's see also Revelation 17:12-14. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet. Do you see how the text explains it to us? What are the horns? But for 1 hour they will receive authority as kings along with the beast. By the way, I digress here. Notice how he is talking about the beast, the subject we are dealing with today. Also here he is telling us that for 1 hour they will receive authority as kings together with the beast. Notice therefore that we are already beginning to say something about the beast. He is someone who is going to receive much power. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Someone is going to give him a lot of power. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. Then we will talk about who the Lamb is. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. Let's move on. The heads, what are they in the symbol? Different forms of government that succeed each other in time. Let's check it out in Revelation 17:9-10. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. Stay with this fact also, because we will also talk about this detail. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Now let's look at the blasphemous name. When he says a blasphemous name, what is he referring to? When man assumes the prerogatives and titles of divinity and also forgives sins. Is this so? Is this a blasphemous name? In John 10:33, the verification of the symbol. The Jews answered him, saying, For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God. Luke 5:21. And the scribes and the Pharisees began to reason, saying, Who is this which speaketh blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone? The continuation of the previous text was telling us that Christ forgave sins. Do you remember that Christ forgave sins more than once? This was theoretically blasphemy to the Jews, for who can forgive sins if not God alone, they said. Therefore, blasphemy goes along with all this. Let's look now at verse 2 of Revelation 13. And the beast which I saw was like unto... What does this remind you of, those of you who have been to the previous lectures? Was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Do you remember the previous conferences, which beasts were also appearing there in the succession of empires? Weren't they these little animals? It is curious, the prophet is telling us again, using symbols that had appeared in Daniel, and now we are in Revelation. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Let's see then what the leopard, the bear, and the lion are. Animals that appear in the other prophecies of Daniel 7 and 8 are the succession of empires that lead to the rise of this beast from Rome. Here we see an illustration with the four little beasts: Babylon, the next empire, Medo-Persia, the next, Greece, and the last, Rome. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority, says the text. Do you remember who the dragon was in symbols? Satan. Therefore, Satan grants his favor and much power to this beast. Therefore, we realize that the beast we are going to deal with does not have a divine favor from God, but has precisely the favor of Satan, who gives him great power and much authority, almost nothing. Let's check the symbol in Revelation 12:9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil. And what else? And Satan. Do you see how I am not lying to you? You see how it appears in the text. Who is the dragon? The ancient serpent, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. This is the one who gives power to the beast. Verse 3 of Revelation 13. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Head mortally wounded, but it is healed, and the whole world marvels and follows it. What does it mean? At some point in the story, this power is struck down, but later it rises again and they worship it. Could it be that there is a power or someone who is able to receive a mortal wound, and it rises again? The one who receives a mortal wound is not saved. He is mortal and rises again. Let's look at verse 4. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Therefore, when they worship the beast, what do? Let's see, because, moreover, indirectly, they do the same with the dragon. Who is the one who confers the power? If they are worshiping the beast, therefore, who are they worshiping? Who is the dragon? Satan. In other words, if we worship the beast, once we know who it is, we are worshiping Satan. Notice the importance of all this. Let's go to verses 5 and 6 of Revelation 13. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. We'll have to do some math today. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Let's see what this speaking great things and blasphemies means. It is self-granted authority, along with assuming the prerogatives and titles of divinity, and, moreover, as if that were not enough, forgiving sins. Let's see this. 42 months. He acts 42 months. What is this? Let's see it. We are talking about a prophetic time, therefore a prophetic time is either literal or symbolic. In these cases, It is obviously symbolic. A day is equivalent to a year in prophecy, yes or no? Let's look at it. Let's verify the symbol if a day is equivalent to a year. Ezekiel 4:6 says, in a relationship that God had with Ezekiel, speaking to him about some symbologies through acts that he had to do and that the people had to learn through his symbols, he said to him, and when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have appointed thee each day for a year, in prophetic symbology. 1 day equals 1 year. Therefore, 1 day equals how long? 1 year. Let's look at another text also, Numbers 14:34. After the number of the days in which ye search the land, even 40 days, each day for a year, shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my breach of promise. This was precisely when the Israelites, the Hebrews, left Egypt. They began to go around before reaching the promised land. They did it for 40 years. So, conclusion. Let's continue a little bit with mathematics. Very simple. 42 months. How many days does a biblical month have? It did not have variance of 31, 28, they were 30. So we multiply 42 months by the 30 days of the biblical month and we get how many days? 1,260 days. But we are talking about prophecy, therefore it will be 1260 years. With this, what do you think? The first thing that comes to your mind, a beast that lasts 1260 years. Does any one of you live 1260 years at least? But no beast in this world lives that long either, right? So, what conclusion does this lead you to think this? Now I make you reason a little bit, going out of what comes out here. A person lives so long or has ever lived so long, right? Well, more than living, they are mummified, aren't they? So, what conclusion does this lead you to? Can this beast refer to only one person? Nobody lives that long, therefore this beast is not a specific person. And why do I tell you this? I tell you this for a reason that now you will say, well, since you do not know it, you are perhaps going to stay a little bit the same. We could dedicate a whole topic to say that there are many people in the Christian world, Catholic and Protestant, who claim that the beast we are talking about is a particular Lord, that this already happened in the past and is part of history. Notice how through symbols we already realize that it cannot be applied to a person because no one has lived 1260 years. With this alone, we already have enough to throw to the ground any other hypothesis. But let's move on. Verses 7 and 8 of Revelation 13 say, And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds, and tongues, and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Let's see what this war against saints is all about. Who are the saints, biblically speaking? Do you think that saints are people who stand on an altar or who have been beatified? This is the concept we have of a saint, isn't it? The concept we have in our Christian world. Is this true, biblically speaking? Notice the explanation here. Saints, biblically speaking, are those who keep the 10 Commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus or his testimony. They are not people canonized or beatified by anyone, and as an illustration, wage war against the saints. An illustration. Someone burns, and on top of that, he hangs, right? What makes you think such a thing? Is there a concept that crosses your mind? First, we will have to prove whether what I say up there is true or not. If those are the saints, the commandment keepers. Let's see. Revelation, the 14:12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Did I lie to you? These are the saints according to the Bible, not the ones canonized or beatified by anyone, but the ones who keep the commandments of God, the 10, and the faith of Jesus. Let's look at Revelation 12:17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Notice, they have the testimony of Jesus Christ, moreover. And let's look at Revelation 19:10. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God. For the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Or as other versions say, the spirit of prophecy. Another day we can discuss in depth what this spirit of prophecy or the spirit of prophecy is. Let's see how precisely now this beast is given authority over the whole world. Over the whole world. This is very strong. Let's see what the lamb that was slain is, what the text said. The lamb, Christ, thus symbolized in the prophecies concerning the Messiah. You all know that, in ancient times, in the history of the Hebrew people, from the earliest beginnings recorded in the Bible, they were made to sacrifice a lamb. Their hands were put on their heads as a symbol that the sins of the person were passed on to an innocent being who was slain and then burned. And this was a symbol of Christ, the one who had no guilt, like that poor little lamb that was meek, died because of the transgressor. Let us now see the verification of this symbol. Isaiah 53:7. This is the Old Testament, and notice this, because when this was written, Jesus was not yet born. It was hundreds of years away. Isaiah, in a prophecy of the so-called messianic prophecies, the ones that announced that a Messiah would come, and that he would live in certain places, that he would do certain things, etc., etc., this was written. Someday we are going to dedicate a single lecture to talk about the messianic prophecies, because they are extremely interesting and vital. The text reads, He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he openeth not his mouth. And this happened in one person, in Jesus Christ. In other words, the prophecy was fulfilled. Therefore, the whole sacrificial ritual of the Israelite sanctuary described in the biblical Old Testament, which is prior to the historical period of the birth of Jesus, cites the sacrificial lambs as a symbol of the Messiah. These people had to do this for years and years, so that it would be clear to them that someday in history, a Messiah would appear, who would die for their sins, so that they could be saved. This was the symbol. The lamb, Jesus, was the real meaning. Let us now turn back to verse 9 of Revelation 13, which reads, If any man have an ear, let him hear. Why do you think it says, If any man have an ear, let him hear? What does this mean? Let's look at it. To be attentive, inquiring, and thinking to know who this beast is and what he is doing. That's why it says, we must be attentive, hearing. What good is it for us to have ears? To have ears that work and not know things? No use, right? So it means that we are to reason, hear, and reason. Let's look at verse 10. Now, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Okay. Revelation 13:10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Therefore this power would end in captivity. And although we will see that it later reemerges again. Let's go through the image. Well, we stop first to change the tape. Let's look at verse 18 of Revelation 13. What does it tell us here? Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. We see therefore something important. With all this we have said that it was not a specific human being, because they never lived that long, but instead it applies something of men and gives us a number. This little number, 666, we will deal with at the end of the lecture on the beast, because it is extremely interesting. Now we are going to remember precisely how this little horn would arise, what this little horn would do, which we are now going to see in image. Well, here we see 666, the famous number of the beast, and here we have the little horn of the book of Daniel. Then we will see the parallelism with the beast that we are analyzing, from which we will deduce that it is the same power. The power of the beast of Revelation is going to be the same power of the little horn that Daniel spoke of many years ago. Let's end with a series of texts found in Daniel, chapter 7, verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns, plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Do you notice the parallel between one text and the other? Let's go ahead and now look at Daniel 7, 19-21. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them. Do you remember the parallel with the texts of Revelation? What precisely did this power do? Daniel chapter 7, verses 24 and 25. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, he shall be different from the first. And he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Prophetic symbolism that we will also see what it is. And we finish with one more text. Daniel chapter 8, verses 9-12. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host, and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. Here he puts sacrifice. In the original there is no such word. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. Here again, sacrifice was not in the original, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. We're going to leave it here today. Next day we're going to splice with the summary of all of this, and we're going to get right into who this beast is.